Welcome to the Spotlight On series, where we get to sit down and speak to some of the most inspirational market leaders from some of the UK's most exciting brands. We'll learn about their careers, their challenges, and their achievements, all to inspire you to help you grow your careers. Hello and welcome to this episode of Spotlight On, where we're joined by the very inspirational Sian, who's the Director of Marketing at Tops. Sian, can we kick off by maybe telling us a little bit about your current role, what you're doing at the moment at Tops?
Yeah, of course. So I am Director of Marketing at Tops Tiles. So I've been there for 12 years. So yeah, quite a long career there. And at the moment, I'm responsible for digital marketing, so the driving of traffic to the website and ultimately footfall to stores. Everything that happens when you're on the website, so making sure we're driving conversion and providing a best-in-class experience. I also look after the store estate in terms of print, promotions, point of sale, and I also look after the trade marketing function. So as a business, about 60% of our sales goes through our trade channel, so a really important customer group for us. So I look after the marketing and loyalty aspect of that, and the same team also looks after kind of data and insights. So in a nutshell, that's what I do at the moment.
Quite a broad role then, for sure.
Yeah, it sounds a lot when I say it. Yeah.
But interestingly, you've kind of come from sort of a digital background and sort of been in the industry, for quite some time. So your CV's incredibly impressive as well. You've worked at some amazing brands. What sort of has been your career path to kind of get to the position you're in at the moment?
So I have been very privileged to work for some great brands actually, and always market leaders. So I guess I started my digital career at Center Parcs. So a market leader, a brilliant company to work for, but obviously a very different industry. I then moved on to Holland & Barrett. So that's where I kind of developed a love for all things retail. Again, very, very different customer journey, but lots of kind of transferable skills. And I joined Tops Tiles as digital marketing manager. So you're right, my background is digital. It's what I'm very, very passionate about. And I think that I probably had a reverse journey to a lot of marketeers. Yeah. So when I joined Center Parcs, I'm old enough to have been like only the second person in the digital team. It was kind of like, oh, what's this internet thing all about? Let's stick a toe in the water. And I think that because that was my background, I kind of learnt the more traditional aspects, whereas a lot of marketeers were already skilled in that area and had to upskill on the digital side of things. So joined Tops as digital marketing manager. The view of the website when I joined Tops was very different to how it is now. So it used to be called the web shop. So the website is our biggest shop, and it drives sales, and that's great. And Tops has been on an incredible journey actually to realise the potential of digital. It isn't just about driving sales, it's about capturing traffic, inspiring people, and driving that traffic to stores, because tiles are hard to buy, right? It's not the same as buying vitamins as it was with Holland & Barrett. It's a considered purchase. You want to see and touch and feel the tile, and you don't know, you need to speak to a store colleague because you don't know how to stick it on the wall. So we very much think of the website as part of the customer journey. As part of that, that's really helped me, develop my career, because I've been instrumental in taking Tops on that journey. A big part of growing my role and kind of becoming head of digital was all based around that. So let's raise up the profile of digital within the business. And at one point there was a head of digital, which was me, and there was also a head of marketing. So there were two separate roles. And fundamentally that didn't work, because you're trying to segment two customer journeys that don't really exist. It's very intertwined and ingrained. So when the head of marketing left, I stepped up and took over the whole of the function, which is when I went on that reverse journey of what's PR, what's an advertorial, what's how do you print a graphic board? But I absolutely love it. I think the traditional aspects have certainly been a learning curve for me, but I think it gives me a really good standing to understand the whole customer journey and all of those touch points, and I think that's really important.
that step change from sort of you know head of digital to suddenly owning everything, like what did you have to do to be able to kind of like capably do that role? Was it a lot of personal development? Did you have mentors? Did you kind of, how did you end up succeeding in that role?
Yeah, I think coaching and mentoring was really important for me because it was a big step up. So not only the kind of natural step up, but this is my kind of vertical that I look after and I'm going to the next level. I was also kind of broadening my remit and moving up to the next level. And I think the imposter syndrome that comes with that it can be a challenge. Yeah. And I think the coaching and the mentoring really helped me with that. And I think the biggest change between the levels is it's learning to let go, and actually you go from being a doer who knows lots of things and is very close to the detail, and you have to step back from that, and you really have to challenge yourself to empower your teams, or make sure that you're relying on them to know that, so that you don't have to. So kind of know enough to challenge and to steer in the right direction, but it's okay to not be all over the detail. That's the direction you should go in. So I think that was the biggest learning curve for me.
Yeah, I can certainly sort of relate sort of in a different field, that idea of recognizing that you don't have to be the best at absolutely everything, that there is plenty of smart people around to kind of like hand things over to. You touched on imposter syndrome and stuff like that. It's like obviously massive but not at the moment. It's always been a thing, but it's something that does genuinely crop into everyone's head, quite a lot of the time. So you mentioned you kind of used coaching and stuff like that. Was that something that your employment at the time, like Tops, provided, or was it something that you kind of went out and sought?
So it was provided by Tops. So they were incredibly supportive in terms of taking me on that journey. And coaching, it's something that we carry on and do as a business. So the people that are higher than me within the business, they're constantly learning, they're constantly developing, they're constantly trying to improve as well. So it isn't here you go, you've learned some stuff, the end. We're all on that journey together, and that realization that we're our MD will talk about having imposter syndrome. I think imposter syndrome is a positive in a way, because I think it shows you care. I think if you don't have it a bit, you're probably a bit of a psychopath, aren't you? Why aren't you feeling it? So I think it's a positive feeling to have, because it comes from growth and it comes from being slightly uncomfortable, and I think they're all good things to head into. So just about managing it, I think.
I think that's a really, really important message. You've gone from digital marketing to then sort of management roles, and then into now into sort of leadership roles. What if you could pick up like one or two key differences, like what would they be between that step up to delivering to managing, from managing to leadership?
Yeah, I think the kind of the letting go and the not being all over the detail I've talked about, I think that's really important. I think something that kind of really helped me, which was through coaching and leadership courses, is this whole idea of self-awareness and having that awareness of other people, which I think stepping up and leading people, it kind of gives you the time and the knowledge to do that. So understanding your own energies. So what gives you energy? What are your key motivations? When something doesn't give you energy, you have to recognize that, and you have to kind of face into it. And I think when you understand that about yourself, you are much more accepting and knowledgeable about seeing that in other people, and learning how to manage a team rather than just managing yourself and your own workload. So I think the awareness of what your impact is and how you lead people, I think is the biggest change. That when you've got your head down and you're focusing on your own things, you don't really think about, and you don't have to worry about too much. That
resonates for sure. And I guess for anyone that's perhaps watching, and I imagine a lot of people watching and perhaps would want to follow in a very similar career path to kind of what you've trodden, what sort of skill sets do you think people should be investing in themselves, or what areas of personal development do you think are really important to focus on early on in your career and perhaps like continue throughout?
Yeah, I think it's different for everyone, because I think people will have naturally different skill sets and naturally different interests. I think for me, anybody who wants to progress, I think, should have a focus on leadership skills, that kind of self-awareness that I've spoken about. I think that's really important. I think the higher you move up the the less of a functional expert you are. So actually the kind of the personal development is less about, you know, what's the latest Google update and those sorts of things, and it's much more about leading people and managing people. So yeah, I think anyone who wants to progress and move up in their career and thinks about managing teams should be doing that investment in personal development.
Yeah, early on as well. And it's
Absolutely
an
early on.
iterative thing, right?
Well, it's an iterative thing, as we talked about. You know, we're all on a learning journey, and also it's just like it's a great toolkit for life. Like, you know, things I've learned in a working environment about how to deal with people and how to manage people, you know, and self-awareness. Like, I use that every day in other things that I do. So it's almost a bit like therapy, isn't it? So it's good. It's just a good thing to do and a good thing to have in your toolkit, I think.
So self-awareness. I think the other one that I'm always big fan of as well is that like emotional intelligence, empathy, like that sort of stuff is vital to being able to assess situations and to be able to kind of like relate and kind of approach things with that level of empathy. I think can be massively important. For people.
Agreed.
When we caught up on the phone last week, one thing that really stuck out to me was, you know, you'd obviously had some amazing positions in some great brands, but, you know, Topps, you've been there for sort of 12 years now, and you were, when we spoke, you were like incredibly passionate about the brand itself. So like, how important to you and your like, kind of career journey has it been to have like such an awesome employer, someone that you know, kind of like you really vouch for?
Yeah, and I think I said to you on the phone, it's gonna be hard to almost remain authentic here, because it's gonna look like it should say sponsored by Topps Tiles running along the bottom of the screen. But genuinely, I'm a huge advocate for Topps. Like, it is an amazing brand to work for. When I joined 12 years ago, like, it felt like a special place culturally, and that sometimes can be hard to quantify. And I think over the years, we've got better at quantifying it. So for the past few years, we've had leading people as one of our strategic pillars. Yeah. We've got an amazing HRD who's really hot on this whole people aspect and the culture, and really trying to drive that for Topps and to formalise it a little bit more. I think one of the key things that's always stuck with me is when I was, you know, quite still a junior in the business, I guess, I was out in store with one of the senior leadership team, and he talked about you know, his role in Topps was to, you know, drive and maximise profitability. But he talked about, you know, at the end of every day, I still have to go home and look at myself in the mirror and think, have I done, you know, the best by myself in terms of my moral compass, and have I also done the best by those people around me? And, you know, that really resonated with me, because that respects my values. But thinking that somebody at the top of the business like felt like that and deals with their daily life like that, that is the kind of thing that permeates through Topps. And I think we all feel that in our culture. I think, you know, the people feel like that. We don't get it right 100% of the time, of course we don't, but I think we are really working hard to create an environment where it's okay to not get it right all of the time. The other thing I think is really special about Topps, and you hear when other people come from other businesses, when they join us, or when I speak to external agencies, strategically we're really strong. So we all have quite a simple strategy. We focus on a few things, we do them really well, and again that permeates everything that we do, and we try to keep that alive at every level of the business. And I think that steers us really well. Everybody knows why they're doing what they're doing, why it's important, you know, and how they fit into the business. And people really feel like they make a difference. And I think that's what, you know, people feel that in their heart, and they feel like actually they like going to work every day because they know what they do matters.
I guess it's that, like, I mean, even we're working on it constantly as a business, but what I'm hearing now is it's a combination of a clear mission, vision, like understanding of where you're going, but actually more importantly is like the ability to align culturally. It's making sure that you're working in an environment that, you know, everyone shares the same values. For anyone who's looking for employment and sort of on that journey at the moment, once they've applied to Topps Tiles,
yes,
and then an impression,
absolutely.
Are there anything else that you know that people can use to measure like what sort of, you know, fit that an employer might be? Is there any other sort of attributes that kind of stick out?
Yeah, I think again, it's one of those things that I think is quite hard to quantify, and it will be different for everybody. People are looking for different things. I think employment has changed massively since the pandemic. I think employers are a lot more flexible. There's more like home working, you know, there's more flexibility around families. I think just kind of really think about the culture that's important to you. You know, what's important to make your day-to-day life pleasurable, because we all spend a lot of time at work. You know, we spend a lot of time with the people at work. So yeah, I would just really encourage people to think about what are their non-negotiables in terms of where they want to be and who they want to be employed by, and really find the right fit for them. So yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and it's really interesting, just the shift over the last sort of like 3 or 4 years from, you know, career was always about, traditionally it was kind of very much about salary and how high you could get, whereas now, you know, people are becoming a lot more aware of actually, you know, like what are the various different balances. And you kind of touched on it there earlier about the sort of family side of things, and you yourself, you know, you've got a young family, and you're balancing a high pressure job as well. So like how do you kind of find those two things, and what sort of things do you implement to try and make sure that you've got like a kind of like a healthy work-life balance?
Yeah, I think so just kind of two things to touch on, I think, before I answer that question. One is that I'm very aware that I'm in a super privileged position. So I have, well, she'll be 2 in July, so coming up for 2. You know, I'm in a very lucky position that myself and my husband, you know, we're both financially secure. You know, my husband is absolutely fantastic. My employer is absolutely fantastic in terms of the flexibility that they offer. And, you know, I have a really good support network in terms of family. So when I complain that it's hard in a minute, which is where I'm going, you know, it's hard in spite of having all of those things in place. And anybody who doesn't, I'm just, you know, completely in awe of, and I don't know how they manage. The second thing that I think it's important to kind of to face into is that, you know, I'm kind of thrilled to be here and be talking about this because I'm passionate about it and I'm keen to share my experience and my insights. But, you know, if my husband was sitting here talking about his career, he wouldn't get the same question. He wouldn't be asked about balancing family life and work life. Yeah. And I think that is just creates an incredible and crushing pressure on women and mothers, and I think it's you know, it just creates this kind of pressurized environment that it's really, really hard. I also think you know, it does a disservice to men that are incredible fathers actually, because, you know, my husband is turning up to work like a zombie some days because he, you know, he was up with my daughter in the night, and you know, and it just, to kind of take that away from him, I think is really damaging to men as well. And I think as a society, you know, we put this pressure on women put the pressure on themselves, and we allow kind of expressions to exist like, you know, oh, I'm so lucky you're such a hands-on dad. Nobody says that about women, you know, there's no such thing as a hands-on mum because it's expected. And I think we just need to change the narrative around that, something I'm very, very, very passionate about. But yeah, in terms of kind of having all of those things in place that I mentioned, and I am super lucky and super privileged, it is hard for work-life balance still. And, you know, so a typical day for me, it's kind of waking up at 5 with my daughter. She gets dropped off at nursery at 8, so it's like 3 hours of like toddler parenting before you've even got to work and opened an email. And then, you know, it's busy kind of high pressure job all day. You know, pick my daughter up, she's down by like kind of 7:30. Tidy the house because it looks like somebody's picked it up and shook it.
Or tidy the one.
That's right. When we were on a Zoom call, I was like, "Yeah, Mikey, this bit behind me,
it's like
looks fine.
Kitchen,
you know, over there and over there, there's Weetabix and toys everywhere. It's dreadful." And then it's kind of like, okay, I'm really tired. Let's watch telly for an hour and then go to bed before you do it again. And that's an average day. And, you know, we do have downtime and we make sure we have, like, you know, date nights, or I'll go and see my friends, or my husband will. But yeah, it's hard. It's tiring. I think I've always prided myself on being somebody who has like a really positive energy and is quite energetic and enthusiastic about things. And some days it's just like, I'm just tired. But I think having that work-life balance is really important, and something I was really keen on when I returned to work after maternity leave was making sure that I didn't go back like apologetically, or I didn't try to go back as the same person, because I'm not the same person. I've fundamentally changed who I am. And I had a bit of return to work coaching actually before I went back with an incredible lady called Rachel Jackson, who I would recommend. And just kind of making sure that I'm setting my stall out, and I'm 100% committed to my business, of course I am, but I'm also 100% committed to my family, and I have to navigate what that looks like now, because it looks different to when I was here before and I didn't have a family.
I'm guessing that's sort of maybe setting some clear boundaries as well, and you know, making sure that those lines are not crossed perhaps.
Absolutely that, and it's you know, I'm really fortunate that, you know, Tops are a flexible employer, and whereas I used to work 5 days, I now do 4.5 days, but I do them over 4, so slightly longer days, 4 days a week, and then I have Wednesdays off. So, and it's, you know, on Wednesdays, you know, I'm off, I'm not working, and I'm perfectly happy to be contacted. Please ring me, or, you know, message me if I need to get involved in something, and I absolutely will. But, you know, I'm not at home with my daughter checking emails on my phone, because that's my time with her. So, and I think, again, I was really kind of clear when I went back, and I was passionate about doing that. I didn't kind of want to be apologetic, as I said, like, oh, I'm back, but I'm a mum now, so sorry, you can't speak to me on Wednesdays. It's like, I'm back, I'm a mum now, things have changed, like, don't speak to me on Wednesdays unless you need to, and that's fine. We shouldn't worry about having those conversations.
Yeah, and I think that's like a really important message, and hopefully it's reassuring for a lot of people, because there is that, you know, nervousness in for everyone, that kind of, you know, if you're ambitious, you're career driven, it's kind of that, like, it's not a seed of doubt, so to speak, but it's that worry of, like, is there going to be an impact? But it clearly, you know, if it's managed well and you've got support through it, then it can work. My last question is then around, from employers, and this might be like a large question to answer, but what can employers do, and therefore what should people be looking out for in their employment for to support both career development and the sort of the work-life balance, whether that's family or you know, whatever else comes around that?
Yeah, be like Tops. Our short answer to that. But no, like, genuinely, I think that, you know, companies have to, like, change and evolve, and I think for the most part they are, which I think is really, really positive. But, you know, you have to be flexible around families, because people do want that work-life balance, and that's for mothers and that is for fathers, and people will go to places where they feel valued and they feel seen and they feel heard, and they know that they're not just a number that's clocking in and out. They know that they're a valued human being, and people understand that. You don't live to work. Like, I'm hugely passionate about what I do. I care every single day when I go in, but it's not my be all and end all. You know, I have a daughter, I have a husband. That's my main priority, and then I kind of work on top of that. And I think companies need to realise that is the space that people should be in to be mentally strong, and actually that makes you a better employee. And I think, you know, this kind of archaic view that people, you know, you're only successful if you work really long hours, you know, it doesn't need to be like that anymore. I don't think so. And I would encourage people to look for employers that are like that, because, you know, eventually things will change across the board, but sadly I don't think that, you know, things are changing quickly enough. Yeah.
Sian, honestly, that was super insightful, and it's incredible, the kind of like the journey you've been on. So thanks so much for joining us. I'm sure anyone who's watched this has got loads of value for it. So thanks again.
Oh, thank you for having me, and I've really enjoyed it. So thank you.
Cheers. Thanks for watching. For more content like this, don't forget to sign up to our newsletter, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on social.